We're back.
Yeah, we're back. It's been, who knows? Who's keeping track?
I'm pretty sure you are, Ala.
Oh my God.
You have a tally chart somewhere out there where you're just like, yep, that's another one.
Yeah.
She could be called DJ Khaled, you guys.
Oh my God. That's not a great joke.
Yeah, I feel like it's become lamer. That's why I missed this show too, because it kept me on my toes.
You think it's the absence of the show that made you lamer? Well, let's get into the episode. So, hello. I'm Ala, co-host of the Planet Policy Pals, and
I'm Atra, also whatever she is, I guess. Changing weather, so my throat is a bit messed up.
Okay, this is off to a strong start here, guys. It's been 7 months and we missed you. And normally I'd ask for reviews, but it's been 7 months. So after you listen to this episode, though, now you have a fresh reminder. So yes, please rate us on all the apps and review us on Apple Podcasts, Music, whatever it's called.
We've spent a lot of this morning shitting on Apple.
Yeah, we did. We already did that. But we did update the show a little bit.
We actually worked on how to make it better, and that's why we've been gone.
Sure.
So we reviewed how we can make the delivery easier to understand and try to be a lot more freer. Not that we weren't free before, because nobody can contain us. Kidding. But we spend time researching what people care about, and we are going to have a lot more social media interaction. Promise this time will be better, guys.
Do not say a lot. We are going to have more. A lot is a big promise.
That was a very big distinction. Please keep that in mind. We are on more platforms now, including YouTube Music. We updated the music and we worked on finding some new guests, so stay tuned for that as well.
Yep, we have some interesting people coming on. I hope you guys like the new music. Tell us if you like the new music. We like it. It's fun.
Yeah, and we felt like since when we started, climate conversations have shifted a bit to be more sinister. Hence, the music is also a bit sinister. Take it seriously. No more jokes.
Oh, okay. I just thought the music was cooler, but whatever. As always, we have a little update for you guys, or news, whatever you want to call it. So I was on LinkedIn, where social media went to die. And I saw this post where this guy was blaming flights, rising costs in Europe on climate change, and saying how climate policies are going to destroy our chance to be world travelers. And first I was like, shut the fuck up. But then I was like, oh, maybe we could talk about this on the show. You guys, I was going to be so much cleaner after these 7 months. I really was. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's not even one of the top 5 reasons. I mean, we have fuel prices, we have demand, labor shortages, and these airlines are trying to max out profits because seasonal demand, they do this every summer. It just gets worse and worse. And then there's a whole thing because they want to add more business class space, ticket prices. It's just a lot. Plus, we don't currently have enough planes. And I know some people will be like, they're rebounding because of COVID. No, you guys, airlines have already gotten 100% of their profit back since COVID. So I'm just going to put that out there. But Adra, which of these factors do you think, which one has or had the biggest influence? And do you think the market is going to adjust eventually?
Yeah. I mean, first off, no empathy for these airlines. I'm sorry. That industry just exploits. But I do believe that, rising demand, honestly, is the biggest factor. We're all trying to move in the summer. So since demand is really high, there's, the prices are going to be also very high. And, this industry, as great as it is and deserves all your sympathies, has to unfortunately also show that they have lesser capacity so that their prices can go up. They're really struggling.
Yeah.
So, but however, they do work on market models, and they do also adjust naturally when you all are like, no, it's too cold, I don't want to go there. they lose money. But there are like also other factors, like business class passengers.
Mm-hmm.
If there's more of them in your plane, the cost is actually going to be lower. Do you know that? I didn't know that.
Really?
That was news to me.
Oh, because their tickets cost so much.
Because they're covering the cost.
Mm.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
fly with rich people.
The semi-rich, it's time for them to get on the plane. All the entrepreneurs on my Twitter, time for y'all to start buying business class. Say fuck Spirit today.
It is going to be a demand supply thing. It usually is. Markets will adjust. And it really does depend like how much cost they have to cover.
Yeah, I think demand is really a big factor. Plus, a bunch of airlines said they're hiring more people. So we'll see. Okay, so that brings us to today's topic about cars, which you can tell because it says auto in the title. And if you somehow clicked this but didn't see the title, that's what it's about.
I mean, they probably did it out of love, Allah. They probably are like, we just want to listen to these people talk about anything.
You greatly overestimate our influence, but yes. We're talking about electric vehicles. Let's do that. Currently, in these great United States, 3% of yearly car sales are EVs, which 3% seems small, but that's significant. I would say that's significant. And the International Energy Agency, which will now be said as the IEA, has estimated that 13% of all the cars around the world sold in 2022 were electric. So, electric cars are super important. Fun facts, because science history. So, fun fact, electric vehicles have been around way longer than you would think. In the early 1800s, people in Hungary and the Netherlands and the US were talking about battery-powered cars. And this is when cars were first becoming popular, kind of like the 19th century vibes. And people even built practical electric cars. And then in the US, this guy called William Morrison, he was a chemist in Iowa. He made this battery. And we even had electric taxis in New York City in the 1900s. I did not know that.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Neither did I.
Science history is so fun. But as vehicles got popular, steam was the main thing, right? Because everybody was like coal and steam and yay. But here's what happened. As electric cars got more popular, so did gas vehicles. And gas vehicles went faster. They stayed on the road longer. And back then, crude oil was taken off. So it was much easier to get that. Shout out to Rockefeller. I'm kidding. I'm not shouting out Rockefeller. But even Thomas Edison really liked electric cars, and he said they were superior, and he felt that they would work better. Henry Ford, who was friends with Edison, actually partnered with him at first to come up with a low-cost electric car in 1914. But then the same Henry Ford was like, okay, this gas thing seems to be taking off. I can make more money there. And we all know Henry Ford was about the paper. So he created the Model T, and that was a gas vehicle. It was way more affordable. It was way easier to use.
And faster.
Yeah, it was faster. Stayed on the road longer. So we just didn't talk about electric cars till like the 60s or 70s. And then when, Arab oil embargo came around, people were like, fuck, gas is expensive. Oh my God. Guys, I swear this is going to be cleaner very soon. But in the 70s, I guess, GM even had a prototype for an EV, and it was at the EPA's first ever symposium. But then the Clean Air Act and the Energy Policy Act in the early 90s made people think, you know what, these cars are kind of ruining the air. I mean, California in the 80s, it sucked. But, and also in the 70s, like a lot of serial killers, but that's not what this show is about.
I mean, it's the hippie movement. Like, a lot is happening. Like, those were happening times, bro.
Yeah. It's actually interesting because, again, GM had this car called the EV1, and around that time, a lot of manufacturers were thinking, okay, how can we manufacture our gas cars and modify them a little bit, see if we can play around with electric batteries. But GM was like, we're going to make one new car that's not gas powered at all, just electric, not from any modifications. That was in 2006. And, a lot didn't happen. But in 1997, when Toyota created the Prius,
That car Prius is probably the best thing that could have happened to EVs.
yeah, I mean, even though it's a hybrid, right? And it's not perfect, but Prius kind of changed our lives. We always talk about Tesla and how they changed, having environmentally friendly cars, but it really was the Prius that got things rolling. So the first Prius was created in 1997 in Japan, and it was available worldwide by 2000s. But then everything changed in 2003 when these two dudes called Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning started Tesla. Dun dun dun.
Wow. So, hey guys, it was not Elon Musk. Are you surprised?
I can't believe it took you this long to say his name. But great. Good job. But yeah, so in 2004, Elon Musk led the company's $7.5 million Series A funding because he was actually on the board. And that's how he became chairman of the board and the majority shareholder. Then in 2007, he got Martin kicked out and they had serious beef, actually, which is very funny. But Elon became CEO after he kicked him out.
But not surprising.
I know, right? Because he blamed him for slowing down the release of the Tesla Roadster. And it was a whole thing afterwards. But the guy eventually left in 2008. And then in 2010, Tesla received $465 million from the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office. Not rich people getting more money.
Yeah, I mean, some things are worth it. I don't think this was a bad... You know how much I hate Musk. Don't get me wrong.
I know. I agree. This was a good investment. Plus, they paid it back in 9 years. Unlike some people who kept their PPP loans and had those written off, whatever. But in late 2010, we got the Chevy Volt. We got the Nissan Leaf in the U.S. market. That started to make, add some competition for Tesla. And then the U.S. Energy Department has this thing called the Recovery Act. And they invested $115 million in charging spots, and all the other companies joined in. So yeah, that's how we got to the point where we are today, where you can have 23 plug-in electric and 36 hybrid models available in a variety of sizes from different car companies, and a science history lesson. I love doing those.
They also are doing it to meet certain standards, right? Companies like BMW, German company, big companies, really what are considered fast and efficient, they're all mostly German or the US.
That is true.
People who buy these cars usually prefer traditional cars. How would it compare for people to get that experience as well?
Well, that's a fair point. So all in all, EVs have affected how we think as a society. And these companies, now when you have not just technology and software driven cars, but you have companies that make really, popular cars like Ford with that amazing F-150 Lightning truck. Things like that are kind of changing the market, or the BMW's new i7, for example. And that is why electric vehicles are now a major part of most countries' Paris Climate Agreements goals. They're trying to use that, we've talked about the Paris Climate Agreement on the show so many times. And part of that goal is to get global warming well below 2 degrees Celsius. And EVs are a way that countries are doing that. They're trying to commit to that. They're trying to invest in the auto companies in their countries to do that.
It's a really big percentage of their overall emissions is transportation.
That is very true. It is a major factor in emissions. It is tricky, though, when we have to compare EVs to traditional vehicles, because yes, they do have fewer emissions. So right off the bat, we're thinking, okay, that's definitely better for the environment. And it is. But you also have to think about the production cycle, the electrical grid, the source of electricity where the cars are made, the kind of tires, because some tires, they leave particulate matter that's not good for the environment. How people drive in said location Like in America, we drive. The amount of driving I do in Texas is not the same as the amount of driving that Audra does in New York. So it's kind of different. The other day I called Audra. She's like, I'm walking to Trader Joe's. Instantly dead on the streets of Houston. No. I'm so sorry, Houston. It's just like those people drive crazy and they don't have any kind of protection for pedestrians anyway. But stuff like that affects the overall impact, right? So here's an example, right? Around half of the emissions from battery production come from the electricity that we use to make said batteries. And I'm talking about vehicle batteries, right? So if you have a company that buys their batteries from another company and then we don't know what kind of electricity they use, like they use fossil fuels to power their plants, we still have to count those emissions. There was this working paper in 2019 from the Institute for Economic Research in Germany that actually suggested that the EVs in Germany would only have slightly lower emissions than a diesel engine.
You know, it's usually is a question that comes up where, yeah, but making an electric vehicle, isn't it overall bringing the same emissions, you know, the kind of water? Should do like a life cycle analysis of electric vehicles versus internal combustion engine. It is really at par, at least currently, the way that we're producing things. But that's not on the concept of electric vehicles, I don't think. I think it's more on the production scales and how we are doing that. We need to change that, not move back to traditional vehicles.
Yes. And so that's a good point. But also that has shifted a lot in the last 10 years alone. So a lot of companies that make EVs, it's true that they have that, but they're not making EVs any less environmentally friendly than they are making their other cars. You know what I mean? But yes, the life cycle matters. That is a great point. I did check their website. I couldn't find a copy of the report, just a paragraph describing the task. I don't know where it went. But a lot of studies did come out, including in Germany, refuting these claims. So I do not know where we stand on that. But that's the thing, right? You can have one paper that says, oh, it's barely anything. And then you have another that says, no, these emissions are 43% lower than diesel vehicles. I tend to think it's somewhere in the middle between little and 43%. Okay. But the issue, like we said, is that it's ever evolving and you have to factor all these things. But we all agree in the science and engineering community, like Audra said, EVs are better for the environment. Mm-hmm. The thing that really gets EVs ahead of traditional cars is because of the emissions that you're looking at from the tailpipe of a car, right?
Yeah, I mean, an electric vehicle barely has anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, a hybrid,
some issues.
Is what has it.
Exactly.
That's a good first step, you know. If you don't want to give up, there's a lot of cars that are plug-ins.
Exactly.
So you can drive fully electric if you wanted to.
That is true. That is a good point. But if we look at places like Norway and France as an example, they get a lot of their energy from renewable energy sources. So if you're looking there, all of a sudden the life cycle emissions of an EV drops significantly. The Tesla Model 3 has higher life cycle greenhouse gas emissions than the best rated conventional car in Germany. But it's still better for the climate. And that's because...
What?
Yeah, because the conventional cars... I'm talking about the supply in Germany as well. And this is... I believe that Tesla has upgraded their Fastlead facility there. They were doing that last year. But as of 2020, beginning of 2022, I read a report that said that it did. But that's a whole life cycle. But that's counting electrical use and things like that, shipping and all of that stuff.
I get that. The point here is it really depends on how the production is set up.
Yeah, and it also depends on the country. So in America, Tesla makes their batteries in Nevada, but they also have Tesla batteries that are made in China. So when you buy a Tesla in the US, the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions, they drop significantly. Because Tesla actually makes their own batteries now. So that also helps to drop their life cycle significantly. And I believe that Elon was talking about powering the plants by a renewable energy source as well. So depending on where your Tesla is made and if it's far from you, if it got shipped to you, things like that are going to also be counted in the life cycle. But they are getting more popular every day. and we managed to reach a record high in 2021 despite COVID. According to the IEA, the use of EVs actually displaced around 0.3 million barrels per day of oil in 2021 alone.
Damn.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Although keep in mind, we would have to change that number to 7 million barrels per day of oil by 2030 to be in step with like the net zero scenario, which is not going to happen. But, you know, the closer we get to it, the better.
Yeah, there's hope.
Yeah. And also, like I said, the batteries we have today are much better than they used to be. Companies like Tesla are starting to make their own batteries, or they're trying to use more local companies to reduce that footprint. And I will say that we still need to reduce the need for critical metals like nickel and cobalt, but we are getting more lithium batteries, and that is really, it's better for the environment in general.
And honestly, they're making it closer to Mars now, so as many minerals for much cheaper.
I'm not even gonna get into that. But we've talked about the impacts, and yes, these things are good for the environment. These are car companies, okay, you guys? They are still in this because they know that our general opinions are changing, attitude is shifting, corporate social responsibility is more important, even in this more slowly, more right-wing world. But sometimes they lie.
Oh no.
Companies lie.
What a surprise.
Yeah, I know. But the industry is still fairly new, so the main dominators have not been under pressure to tell us much. And that's why we're about to talk about greenwashing, which we know the auto industry is notorious for, Volkswagen. And to me, the only people that are worse are fashion and energy. So last year, Tesla only disclosed how much, I know we say their name a lot in this, but it's Tesla and we're talking about EVs, and they were the big guys for a long time. They still kind of are. Tesla only disclosed how much greenhouse gas pollution it generated from its direct operations and from customers charging their EVs. And the EV charging was 2.5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. However, Tesla doesn't usually give us big picture info. Okay.
Yeah, that's really surprising.
Okay. There's a sarcasm, guys, as expected. But it turns out in 2022, there are actually 30.7 million tons of carbon dioxide when we include everything, including supply chain costs. But this issue isn't unique to Tesla. We're not Tesla bashing. We hate Elon, but we don't hate Tesla.
Yep. Facts.
Yeah. Companies have 3 scopes of emissions that they can report. That's the issue. Scope 1 is emissions. Scope 2 is the energy they use to make their stuff. And Scope 3 is indirect sources. That's kind of where they usually fudge a little bit, a lot of it. But supply chain is a big part of that. And so companies will only share 1 and 2 a lot of the time. Going back to Tesla, Scope 1 and 2 only cover 610,000 tons of CO2 from 2022. But if we look at everything, then we're going into like 30 million or whatever I just said, which is crazy. We know this because Tesla's 2022 impact statement actually gave us all the information, and they didn't used to do that. Like, it was a lot of information. I was like, all right, go Tesla, just for that.
I'm pretty sure they were like forced to at some point.
Yeah. And then that's the thing, right? Tesla makes all these EVs. They've cornered the EV market, even as there's more competition. But Ford, a company that makes tons of conventional vehicles, has generated A grades for its climate change disclosure since 2019, while Tesla has F grades.
Oh, wow.
You would think that the electric vehicle company would be disclosing more than the company that has all that gas, but you will be incorrect.
Disclosing is different than actually producing.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So, but if you're faking a lot of what you're producing, then it's harder to disclose it.
Okay, allegations, that was not for me. I just want to say Planet Policy Pals does not accuse Tesla of any wrongdoing.
No, it's not an allegation. I'm just saying, like, why won't you
Yeah.
just say, if you don't have anything to hide, show it.
I mean, keep in mind, Ford does produce 337 million tons of CO2. That was just 2022 alone. But it's a conventional auto company, and they've always disclosed all three scopes. And they did sell 3 times more than Tesla did.
Exactly.
Because it's Ford. So that's like one example of greenwashing that can be kind of shady. The company didn't really do anything bad, but they're not being super honest with us. Now let's get into the people that have been really, really lying. The Sierra Club released a report on how car dealerships lie to you that there's not enough demand for EVs. So they come and then they market to you all the commercials, these car companies and the dealerships. They're like, yeah, we have all these EVs and we're trying to help the planet and you should buy our cars because even this gas cars now, they care about the planet more, yada, yada, yada. But when you get to the dealership, they don't have the EVs in stock. Now, keep in mind this is about America. So 66% of car dealerships in the US did not have a single EV available for sale.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was like, damn, are all those dealerships in this city where I live? Because
I wouldn't be surprised. You live in Texas.
okay, I will have you know that there are many people in Texas who are environmentally conscious. We just have a lot of oil here, so it makes there's a lot of space to cover. Okay. Anyway, I don't know why I'm defending Texas. 44% of the 66 said they would offer an EV if they could get one. So their claim was, we just can't get it from the car companies.
What, are they breaking down less? Are people selling them less?
I know. So 44% of the people who didn't have EVs said we'd sell them. 45% said, nah, we would not offer it for sale. Even if they were like, here, take some more. We'd be like, no thanks, bitch.
Are they also in your town?
It's just like, sometimes they don't believe that the demand is there, but how will you know the demand is there? Like, offer it to people, sell it. Damn. Interestingly, though, Mercedes-Benz, who doesn't even make as many EVs as some of these other companies, had the best EV availability among car brands. 90% of the Mercedes dealerships in the US have an EV available for sale. So if you have money, Mercedes has cars for you. Guess who was the worst, Adwa?
Honda?
Yeah, Toyota and Honda. Toyota and Honda were the worst. Honestly, like, this is making me feel real shitty. This whole episode and this research made me feel real shitty about driving a Toyota.
I'm very surprised about Toyota because Toyota really pushes their hybrids.
Yeah.
Honda does not.
Toyota pushes their hybrids, but even though they've been coming out with EVs and they've been doing all this marketing, they don't push the sale of their EVs. They barely push the sale of their hybrids as much as you think. Like, if you go to a Toyota dealership, and I've all my cars have been Toyota, all my maintenance were at Toyotas, they're not pushing the hybrids and EVs on you first. I'm just saying. Again, Planet Policy Pals does not accuse Toyota of any wrongdoing. Only 11% of Honda dealers and 15% of Toyota dealers had an EV to even sell you. But yes, but they will continue to tell you that they're shifting. And so that's the issue. These things have all these issues, but overall, I guess EVs are still better. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, you can't lie.
But the selling tactics are not great. This greenwashing is an issue.
I mean, also, I'm sorry, but the people who are usually selling them, they do believe more in traditional cars.
No, car dealerships and car salesmen believe in what will sell. They're all about money. If people started buying them in droves, that is all they would have. Those people love them some money.
That is like, some real compelling stuff. Shifting a little bit, speaking of not reporting correctly, which honestly nobody does. But I did hear that Greenpeace Australia Pacific has actually asked the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission to investigate whether these environmental claims by especially Toyota, because Toyota is a really big seller of automobiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to investigate if they're actually misleading or deceptive.
They are. They are investigating, and the allegations are saying that Toyota's net zero by 2050 plans contradict its car production plans. They're not producing enough EVs and hybrids to meet that demand, but they're saying that they are. And also, they're pushing this whole idea that they're way more rapid, their transitions are way faster, and Toyota itself has actually lobbied to weaken vehicle emission standards. I mean, I know car companies do that, let's be real, but all around the world, Toyota has been really good at lobbying for that. Mirai cars, which is Toyota, were unlikely to be powered by green hydrogen in Australia, but for some reason they marketed it as such. So they can't really be considered low emission vehicles the way Toyota is selling them to be. And then Toyota says a lot of its new hybrids are self-charging, but you shouldn't call something self-charging when it still needs gas. You know what I mean? It's just all these little things here and there. I don't think this is going to lead to legal consequences, but yeah, no, Toyota is they're getting hit hard right now in the news because it's kind of shitty what they're doing.
I mean, it's also Australia, and usually Australia is very good at calling these companies out for saying one thing and doing another. Kind of like the EU, but
EU actually cracks down, though.
Like, in 2020, there was like a Toyota advertisement for a self-charging hybrid, and it was banned in Norway for actually being misleading to consumers. So kind of like the Australian thing that you can't, like you said, you can't call them self-charging because it do still require petrol.
And not everybody is as into this as we are. So people kind of like, oh my God, I'm saving the planet. And you are making the world a better place. I'm just saying, don't lie about it. Don't treat people like we're idiots. Speaking of their nonsense, last year, the Australian courts actually ordered Toyota to pay $2 billion, Australian dollars, in damages for faulty car filters, particulate filters. And these were all in diesel cars. It was between 2010 and 2015 that they had this. And Toyota had the nerve to appeal last year. But that stuff is actually directly bad for the environment. That's not even just a messaging problem. So, I don't know, Toyota. I don't know. Okay, so speaking of greenwashing, the EU is cracking down, like Audra said, because a survey in 2020 found that 53% of all environmental product claims were vague, misleading, or unfounded. That's like a quote, and that's the voice I imagine them doing in that. The UK and France already have rules for misleading green ads, but the UK code does not fully define what it means when they say this claim is unsubstantiated, so they really need to iron out the language. The French rules focus more on climate concerns like carbon neutrality, which that's also a big thing in the news right now, rather than general sustainability. So that's why the EU is coming up with a Green Claims Directive. You guys may have heard of this because a lot of people are blaming it for everything from flight prices to why they can't go to sleep at night. I don't know. People love to bitch. But no, okay, let me just dismiss people's concerns.
I mean, to be fair, the climate, it is messing things up. And so it's who else are we going to ask for? I mean, not me, because I am unfortunately not a citizen of the EU member countries.
No, but the Green Claims Directive, I mean, I understand that people see this push towards greener energy as the reason these grids are failing. But I'm going to tell you right now that it's more about a lot of these grids still run on fossil energy. It's not like they are all running on renewables and the renewables are failing. That's not what's happening. If anything, if we as a world had more renewable sources, then we wouldn't be impacted so greatly when one country goes to another country, war with another country, and now we don't have oil, blah, 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 blah. We wouldn't have these fluctuations as much. I'm just saying.
That's the whole idea of circular economy, right? But I feel like they will still find a way to fuck that up.
That's true. Humans suck. But anyway, the Green Claims Directive is saying that environmental labels and marketing have to be clear and they have to verify it by a third party. So Toyota can't just be like, look at our self-charging hybrids, because a third party would be like, those aren't real. And then Toyota would have to be like, fine, look at our hybrids, buy them, bitch. That sort of thing.
I mean, it still works.
They also want companies to stop saying carbon offset neutrality, and actually start telling people this is what we literally do for the environment, and not just be like, we're offsetting, guys, we're offsetting. And then South Korea is also coming up with new laws, and The country has kind of worked on a few environmental initiatives that they hope to release. Part of that is this law, but it's currently in draft. It's not been passed or anything. And they're going to penalize companies 3 million won, which is about $2,200, every time they mislead the public about environmental impacts and green credentials. Now, a lot of the environmentalists in South Korea are saying this is not enough. And I agree with them because, I mean, these companies make bank. Samsung, Kia, you kidding me? They make bank. They can pay more than that.
They're not gonna, they're gonna be like, our phone costs more, bro.
Right. But it's a good start because the one they currently have penalizes greenwashing under their Development and Support for Environmental Technology Act. But nobody has ever actually been fined. So it's clearly not working. They need to change it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, will they change it?
We don't know.
We don't know. Who's changing things is actually the US. Surprisingly, after I don't know how long.
You will respect these great United States, Ajwa.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. They have guns. No, but they have some new legislation. So yeah, right now I do respect it. You know, the Inflation Reduction Act. It is pretty much the most significant climate legislation that has come out of the US history. And it really needed it since post 2016.
Yeah.
You know, the Energy Innovation Policy and Technology Modeling, they find that IRA's $370 billion in climate and clean energy investments could cut greenhouse gas emissions by like up to 43% below 2005 levels by 2030. So yeah, I'm like, I would run ads for this act.
Biden is so bad at marketing because every time I find out something good that his administration has done, I'm like, yo, this was buried so deep in my news headlines, dude. Poor marketing.
Yeah, they're really not doing well, man.
Yeah, because he's also done like stuff for teachers. There's been a lot of good stuff. I'm not trying to push Biden on y'all. I'm just saying you guys came for the centrist and he's actually doing a lot of actionable things. He's not just saying things. He just has bad marketing.
I just think he has a great team around him. I'll be very honest.
With shit marketing skills.
Very shit. Like I said, transportation is the biggest emitting industry in the US. They could have done with some legislation. But like the IRA, while they're not doing so well with like the greenwashing laws, there are other institutes that have introduced laws to like keep an eye on misusing the environment for personal gain, especially with the new ESG fund. Have you heard about how absurd that is?
The ESG
companies are now getting up and saying we're an ESG stock.
Yeah. I don't even. They don't even have to really do much to say it.
Exactly. However, the SEC has proposed some rules that they would increase transparency for investors and they would crack down on this, whatever greenwashing is happening on the stock market.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I actually had a friend who was telling me about some ESG stocks she invested in, and then she started telling me the companies, and I was like, should that even count as ESG stock? She was like, why not? I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, you know? And she's like, oh, well, you know, my financial manager said it is. And I'm like, yeah, because the company says it is, but that's just because they say it doesn't mean that they are.
Yeah, like a lot of companies are making that shift. I don't even how. Oh, by the way, guys, ESG is environmental, social governance and governance.
Oh, yes.
Social governance.
Sorry, guys. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it for electric vehicles. Are they good for the environment or are they just about money? They're better for the environment. Yes, companies are making money, but they're really good for the environment.
Yeah. So would you guys make the shift if you are car lovers, right? And there's a bunch of my car friends are a little snobby about it, but usually they also have a lot of money, so they can't afford great alternative. Yeah. Like the Mercedes, guys, the EV, God. Man, it's such a nice looking car.
I was going to do ratings in this episode, but we ran out of time. So I just want to go ahead and let you guys know the new Nissan Leaf is amazing. The new Ioniq 6 that's coming out is supposed to be really good. Tesla's Model 3 has had a lot of upgrades. The BMW i7, if you have a lot of money and you want something more fancy, then check out the BMW i7 and of course the Mercedes EV like she said. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight some of those cars because the ratings looked really good. And I'm not just talking about emissions, I'm talking about overall because I enjoy cars, like learning about them. I don't have the money to live how I want, but that Mercedes EQ, BMW i7, best luxury cars on the market if you want a new EV and have money.
Yeah, honestly. There's also, by the way, a Blue Green Alliance that kind of like puts out these articles and stuff. So if you're trying to find out are these companies greenwashing or not while you're looking for these cars, you can, like, because this alliance, they unite labor unions and environmental organizations so that they can, like, help with the environmental challenges that can create and maintain quality jobs, build a clean, thriving, and equitable economy.
Nice.
So check them out and also find out if your auto company is doing well.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is our show. Please do check out our website, planetpolicypals.com, for updates and show notes for researchers, science journalists, and government agencies that we utilized, as well as all the references that we used during this show.
Yes, guys, we don't do this alone and we don't steal people's stuff.
Yeah, we are working hard and we like to put out other people's words so that if you want to sue somebody, it's them and not us.
Exactly.
Email us, leave a voicemail, rate and review us. Follow us on Twitter at Planet Policy Pal, Instagram at Planet Policy Pals, and like our Facebook page. Stay safe, and until next time, keep learning, pals.